The buzzards circled low, shadows flitting over the cracked trail as the wind dragged dust like a funeral veil. Clara May stumbled, knees buckling, hand gripping the twisted handle of a carpet bag she'd stopped needing 10 miles ago. The heel of her left boot had given out 2 days back. Blood seeped through the sock, each step a jagged prayer to stay upright. Her lips were split from the sun. Her black calico dress clung to her in all the wrong places, sweat darkened and heavy with dirt. Behind her, the road was nothing but a line of broken sky and memory. Ahead, just more of the same. She muttered a name, no one to hear it, and collapsed by the carcass of a horse long gone a bone. The sun above pulsed like a forge. She blinked against it, the world twisting sideways. Her fingers twitched toward the rusted canteen hanging limp from her hip. Empty, the wind whispered. Laughter. Her head jerked. 2 figures. Small. Pale. She blinked again. Her vision fluttered like a moth caught in a lantern's glow. The shapes came closer, little girls, maybe 9, dressed in faded lace dresses too fine for the road. Their hair was flaxen, their eyes like silver coins buried in snow. "You're melting," one said softly, tilting her head. "You look like Mama did," said the other, holding a dented tin cup. Clara tried to speak. Her tongue cracked like paper. The first girl stepped forward and poured cool water over Clara's face. She gasped, breath clawing into her lungs. The second girl giggled. "Don't be scared. We don't bite," she said, as if rehearsing a line learned by heart. The water hit her chest, then her throat. She coughed. Her voice came out rasping. Where'd you come from?" The girls exchanged a glance. "Broken fence," they said together. "That a town?" Clara asked. "No, a ranch," the older one said, or maybe she just seemed older. It was hard to tell. They moved like reflections. "Our daddy's sick," said the younger. "We need a wife for him." Clara stared. Silence dropped between them, heavy as dusk. The first girl held out her hand. Her nails were clean, her wrist thin and pale as porcelain. She smiled with all the calm of a hymn. "You want a home, don't you?" Clara didn't answer. "Come on," the second girl said. "It's not far, just a little ways." They turned together, stepping off the trail. Clara hesitated, looked behind her. Nothing. No town. No wagon. No Mercy coming. She pushed up on trembling legs. Her knees popped. The bag she carried tore, scattering the last of its contents. A comb, a tin locket, a photograph already fading. She left them. The girls waited without turning. She followed. The desert shifted. Time slid sideways. The trail wound toward a distant ridge where the earth cracked like a scar across the land. Buzzards lifted silently into the blue. The sky stretched wide and unforgiving. Still the girls walked, hand in hand, step for step, like children in a fairy tale. After a while, Clara spoke. "What's your names?" The younger said, "Mercy." The older said, "Grace." Of course they were. They crested a rise. Beyond it, in a basin of bent trees and sun-choked dust, stood a ranch house. Broken fence slats surrounded it like snapped teeth. A windmill turned lazily in the heat, creaking like an old man's back. The barn sagged, but the house was clean, too clean. Curtains billowed in the windows. A rocking chair swayed on the porch, though no one sat in it. Mercy pointed. "That's home." Grace added, "And that's your new home." Clara didn't reply. Her eyes locked on the porch. Something flickered behind the screen door. The girls walked ahead, barefoot now, dresses floating. Clara followed the crunch of their steps through bone-dry grass. Her hand drifted to the scar on her ribs, the place where her husband's badge had once rested when he'd held her. He was gone now, buried in a town that'd rather forget him. She'd been running ever since. They reached the porch steps. The rocking chair stopped. A voice came from inside. Rough. Low. "Bring her in." Grace pushed open the door. Clara stepped across the threshold. Inside, the house was still. The air smelled of cedar and old books. A rifle hung over the hearth. Lamps were lit, though the sun still burned outside. In a wheelchair near the window sat a man, mid-50s, skin leathery, one leg gone at the knee. A thick scar split his cheek. He looked at her like a man sizing up a storm. You Clara May Briggs? He asked, voice cracked like dry leather. She froze. Didn't say my name. Didn't have to. He gestured at the chair across from him. Sit. Clara didn't move. The man exhaled through his nose. I ain't looking for trouble, he said. Just someone to help raise them girls. I don't. You've got nowhere else to go. And they picked you. He looked toward the twins. That means something. Clara looked down at her shaking hands. Looked at the girls. They stared back, wide-eyed and waiting. She sat. The man leaned back. My name's Elias Boone. This here's Broken Fence Ranch. I don't got long left. You stay, you eat. You work, you sleep indoors. You leave? You leave hungry. Your choice. The wind rattled the window pane. Clara met his eyes. You got ghosts here? Elias didn't blink. Everyone does. She looked back at the girls. They smiled. And somewhere far off, a coyote howled, long and lonely, as if warning the stars. The voice stopped Clara cold. Her fingers hovered inches from the cellar latch. Rusted iron set into sun-warped wood. Dust swirled in the beam of lantern light behind her. She turned slowly. Elias Boone sat in his wheelchair by the parlor archway, a loaded shotgun across his lap. That door don't open. Not unless you want what's under it. Clara's jaw tightened. Her hand lowered. I was just curious. I know. The lantern crackled. A silence settled, thick as the heat. He nodded toward the hallway. Kitchen's through there. Girls get jittery if supper's late. Clara said nothing. Her boots creaked against the wooden floorboards as she stepped away from the cellar and into the kitchen. Inside, Grace was slicing potatoes with a blade too large for her hand. Mercy hummed to him, stirring a pot of beans that didn't smell quite right. Both girls turned when Clara entered, like they'd been waiting. We laid the table, Mercy said brightly. Grace added, you should ring the bell. Clara frowned. Bell. Grace pointed to the wall. A bronze handbell hung by a nail. The handle was carved bone. Clara lifted it. It felt heavier than it should. She gave a soft shake. Clang. It rang once. Deep. Hollow. Final. The girl smiled. Night fell hard at Broken Fence. Stars blinked into view like eyes opening across a black sky. Coyotes yipped in the distance. The girls said grace in perfect unison. Eyes closed, hands folded, then began to eat with quiet precision. Elias didn't touch his food. He watched Clara. You shoot? He asked suddenly. Clara chewed slowly. I did. You still? I could. He nodded once. The girls finished, cleaned their plates, and carried the dishes to the wash basin. Elias shifted in his chair. The shotgun never left his lap. You know who I am? Clara stared. No. Liar. She held his gaze. You're Elias Boone. That's all I need to know. He chuckled, dry and sour. That's not all. But it'll do for now. Clara, push her plate back. You want to tell me what's really going on here? He leaned forward slightly. The firelight painted hollows beneath his cheekbones. I ain't long for this world. Lungs are shot. Legs gone. Liver's worse. Doctor gave me a month, maybe 2. But men like me, we don't get to die in peace. Clara's fingers drummed once on the table. You ran with the gang, she said flatly. That it? He smiled, slow and mirthless. I led one. She didn't flinch. He went on. Mercenaries. Bounty boys. Rode from El Paso to Missouri. And every man who crossed us wished he hadn't. But we made enemies. Mean ones. There's men out there still looking to finish what they started. And the girls? He glanced toward the kitchen. The twins were gone. Their dishes, too. They're innocent. At least I pray they are. But the name Boone carries a shadow. They'll come here, Clara, when I'm gone. And those girls will have no one. She leaned back. And you think I'm the kind of woman who stays? Elias shrugged. You're the kind who's got nowhere else to run. And you know how to shoot. Clara stood. You don't know me. He raised the shotgun slightly. Not threatening. Just showing he was there. I know you lost a man. I know you wandered 5 towns in 2 weeks. I know your hands shake when you sleep. Her nostrils flared. I know you used to be a healer, he said. Before they hanged your husband for killing a banker who beat his daughter. Clara's voice dropped low. Say his name. Elias did. Marshal Ewan Briggs. Silence. Then, quietly, I saw him once, Elias said. Rode through Dodge. Man had steel in his spine. Clara's throat tightened. He did right by people, she whispered, and they buried him for it. They sat in silence as the wind howled beyond the window pane. Finally, Elias broke it. My girls need someone who ain't scared of ghosts. Someone who's already carrying their own. Clara stared at the shotgun, at the trembling hands that held it. You think I'll be safe here? She asked. No, he said, but they'll stand chance. That night, she lay on a cot in the room beside the girls. The walls were thin. She heard their voices, faint as dust. Do you think she'll stay? She has to. The others didn't. But she's different. She's cracked like us. Clara turned to the wall. At midnight, something thumped beneath the floorboards. Slow, rhythmic. She rose, lantern in hand, and crept to the parlor. The cellar door still lay closed, but the latch was scratched. Deep gouges, as though something inside had tried to get out. She turned. Elias sat in his chair, watching. His voice was barely a whisper. Don't open that door, Clara. She didn't ask why. She just backed away. Dawn bled red across the windows. The rooster never crowed. The twins were already awake. Clara found them in the barn, brushing a horse that hadn't been fed in weeks. You're not going, are you? Grace asked. Mercy smiled up at her. You looked peaceful last night. In your sleep. Clara hesitated, then reached for the saddle blanket, brushing dust from the mare's flank. No, she said softly. I'm not going. From the porch, Elias watched, and for the first time in a long while, he looked like a man at ease. Just for a moment, the trapdoor creaked open before Clara touched it. Wind from the cellar curled up around her bare ankles, cold, wet, and wrong. She stepped back, breath caught. The girls were asleep. Elias was wheezing in the parlor, whiskey bottle near empty at his side. Midnight pressed against the windows, but something had moved beneath the house. She'd felt it through the floorboards, heard it pacing, slow and deliberate, as if counting every step. She shouldn't have come down here. The lantern shook in her hand. Light spilled into the mouth of the cellar. The stairs swallowed it whole. The scent rising up wasn't just mildew or rot. It was old blood. She closed the trapdoor, fastened the latch, then sat with her back against the wall and waited for the morning. By breakfast, the sun had no warmth. Elias said nothing, just coughed wetly into a handkerchief that came back red. The girls picked at biscuits. Clara's hands wouldn't stop shaking. She watched them both closely, the way Grace's eyes flicked toward the floor when the house creaked. How Mercy rubbed her wrist raw beneath the sleeve of her dress. There's something under this place, Clara said finally. The girls stilled. Elias didn't look up. You were told not to open it. Clara leaned in. What is it? A reminder, he said, of what happens when Mercy runs out. That doesn't mean anything, she snapped. There's something alive down there. Elias looked up now, eyes like gunmetal. There was. He wheeled himself toward the back room. Clara followed. Inside, the curtains were drawn tight. On a shelf above the fireplace sat a locked chest, its corners bound in leather, the keyhole shaped like a star. Elias reached up, grunted, and slid it down onto the table. He unlocked it. Inside were letters, photographs, and a worn leather journal. He opened it. Her name was Annabelle, he said. Came here same as you. Needed shelter. I gave her my name. She gave me daughters. He paused, and then the men came. Clara listened, arms folded tight. Rafe Cutter, Elias said. Pinkerton turned outlaw. Rode with me years ago. After I left the life, he kept going. Took a shine to Annabelle. Said I owed him. I told him no. His hand tightened around the edge of the journal. He said he'd take her anyway. What happened? Clara asked. I put a bullet through his brother's eye. Cutter burned our barn, killed 3 ranch hands. I sent the girls into town with Annabelle while I stayed to fight. He looked up. His face was stone. They never made it. Clara's breath caught. They didn't find the wagon till a week later. 2 miles outside San Isidro. Slaughtered. Burned. But the girls weren't in the wagon, he said. A week later, they showed up at the porch. Alone. No dirt. No blood. No memory. He shut the journal. They've never aged a day since. Clara stared. You're saying? I'm saying something kept them safe. Something down there. He pointed to the floor. I buried what was left of Annabelle in the well. I left the old mine sealed, but something came back with them. Something that walks under the floor at night. Clara shook her head. You mad? He handed her a letter. The paper was brittle, the ink trembling. It read, he calls to them when the stars are right. I see his hand in their dreams. They whisper his name in their sleep, and it's not mine anymore. God help them. God help me. It was signed, Annabelle Boone. That night, Clara dreamed of voices under the bed. Not speaking, but breathing, slow and wet and ragged. She woke to find Mercy standing at the foot of her cot. You shouldn't listen to Papa, she whispered. He's afraid of the wrong thing. Clara sat up, heart pounding. What are you talking about? The bad men are coming, Grace said from the hallway, holding a candle. We saw them in our dreams again. Mr. Cutter is riding, with 6 others. Clara stood. When? Tomorrow night. Maybe sooner. Grace looked down at the candle. We need you, Mama. The flame flickered out. By noon, dust rose on the horizon. Riders. Elias saw it from the porch, squinting past the rim of his hat. They'll be here by dusk, he said. He handed Clara a rifle. She checked the chamber. 6 bullets. He nodded. Make 'em count. She went into the barn. Nailed planks over the doors. Piled crates by the windows. Every room in the house was wired shut. The girls moved in silence, placing candles in corners, laying chalk circles around their beds. At sunset, the wind changed. It carried a sound, hooves, and laughter. That night, Clara sat in the parlor, watching shadows crawl across the wall. Elias dozed, shotgun across his lap. The cellar door groaned. This time, it didn't open. It thumped. Hard. Clara rose, aimed a rifle at it. The girls came to her side, holding hands. Grace whispered, It's him. Cutter. Clara asked. They shook their heads. No, Mercy said. The one under the house. A final thud shook the lantern off the hook. It crashed. Went dark. Silence fell. Then Elias spoke, clear and steady. They're here. Clara dropped behind the parlor table, rifle in her hands, eyes scanning the flickering shadows. Elias wheeled himself to the wall, shotgun propped on the sill. 3 out front, he growled. One's moving left. Glass crunched under boots outside. Low voices. Laughter like a wolf's bark. Clara slid across the floor, took aim through the broken window, and fired. A scream. A heavy thud. One down, Elias muttered. You still shoot like a Briggs. Another shot tore through the wall above them. Clara ducked, ears ringing. The girls crouched behind the couch, arms around each other, their faces blank with eerie calm. The front door rattled, someone kicking it. Rafe Cutter. Elias roared. Silence. Then, still breathing, Boone. A voice like gravel and whiskey rolled in from the dark. Thought I'd find you half dead and rotted. And yet here you are, dug in like a tick. Come finish the job, then Elias barked back. A pause. Then don't mind if I do. The door exploded inward. Elias fired. The blast caught the first man square in the chest, sent him flying backward into the dirt. Gunfire erupted. Clara fired twice more, hit one, missed the next. Splinters rained from the ceiling. Upstairs. Elias barked. Take the girls. No, Clara snapped. We end this here. A shape lunged through the window. Clara whirled, smashed the butt of the rifle into his jaw, then drove her boot into his knee. He dropped with a howl. She didn't wait. 1 bullet through the neck. Elias coughed, blood now. They're coming round the back. Clara grabbed the twins. To the cellar, she hissed. They resisted. We can't, Grace said. He's waking. Now. She shoved open the trapdoor. The cold rose again, thicker this time. Mercy stared into the dark. He's listening. Clara pushed him down anyway. Gunfire cracked from the rear porch. Elias grunted. The shotgun clattered to the floor. Clara dove back up the stairs. Elias was bleeding from the side. His hand trembled, still reaching for the weapon. Rafe Cutter stepped through the back door, long black coat, wide-brimmed hat, Colt in each hand. His grin was carved deep across his face. Well, he drawled. Didn't expect a woman to cause so much mess. Clara raised her rifle. Drop it, he said, or I make the girls scream. She froze. He gestured with his gun. Back away, nice and easy. Clara lowered the rifle, then spun it like lightning and fired. Cutter's hat flew off. He fired back. grazed her shoulder. She fell hard, pain blooming like fire. He advanced, bootsteps slow. Elias coughed again, blood soaking his shirt. "I told you," he gasped, "you'd die here." Rafe laughed. "You don't have the spine, old man." "I don't," Elias whispered. Then Clara rose behind him, blood on her arm, rage in her eyes, and shot Rafe cut her clean through the heart. He staggered once, looked down, smiled through the blood. "Well, damn," he muttered, then dropped. The house went still. Clara collapsed beside Elias. His eyes were glassy. "You stay with them," he rasped. "I will." He nodded once, then was gone. She sat there a long time, hand wrapped around the grip of her rifle. Somewhere beneath the floor, the cellar groaned. She stood, opened the trapdoor. The girls waited below, untouched, unafraid. "He's gone," Clara said. Grace looked up. "You sure?" Mercy tilted her head. "Then why is the well singing?" Clara frowned. From deeper below, beyond the cellar, came a sound, like wind but wet, like breath but wrong. She looked back at the trapdoor, then slammed it shut. At sunrise, Clara buried Elias beside the well, marked the grave with a stone. No name, just a single line carved with her knife. He died protecting what he once damned. The twins stood silent beside her, dressed in white now, barefoot, watching the horizon. A hawk circled overhead. Clara looked out over the land. Sand stretched forever, quiet and cruel. The road called, but the house stood, and so did she. They say she never left that ranch, that the widow of broken fence watched the ridgelines like a ghost with a rifle, that the girls never aged, and no man dared ride too close without losing his way in the dust. They say the well still whispers, but no one's been fool enough to listen. Not since the night the desert sang.